feel that way.
Justin.
Justin, nice to meet you.
Justin,
You're here.
there he is. Nice to meet you. Didn't
Hi.
get to warn
Hi,
about
how's it going?
going. We're gonna have to fix. Chris, you're right over here. Next to Sherry. Just welcome. Thank you for participating in this great experiment of ours, and I'm delighted because none of you know right now who stands where on any issue. Is that right?
Right.
And so far, everybody's getting along. It's really something. It seems like we now have customized facts. You know, we no longer can say, well, this we know is a reliable fact because we're all getting the facts that we want from our sources. Democrats don't especially like to hear bad things about Obama, and so they don't. That doesn't come through in their feed, so to speak. Republicans love to hear bad things about Obama, so anything bad about Obama will be told. And it's frustrating because it's hard to know what's really true.
Today there's so much access to information and being able to go straight to the source so that everything's being videoed, everything is and being documented. And so you can go to news sources and media stations and they'll have edited it in the way that they want to.
Yeah. For me, it's a matter of, yes, there is so much information out there, but I try to find it from both sides because so many, like you say, if it's something bad about Obama, that tends to be these certain type of media markets.
Yeah.
If it's something great about Obama, it's these. And so I try to find the balance and try to find those sources that aren't skewed.
You're going to read some source and it's going to be spun in its own way, and try to just kind of keep that frame of mind.
Does anybody have a source that you have found, right or wrong, that you tend to think is accurate and you rely on?
Absolutely. If I can start the perfect day, it would begin with the print edition of the Wall Street Journal. And I like to read the editorial page last, because the editorial page will always skew your version of the news. And what I like about the Journal is that they do a very good job of trying to separate, in my opinion, the opinion page from the news piece. And I used to read the New York Times regularly, but I found that there was editorial creep to their front page.
I'll admit it, I'm a Fox girl.
Yeah.
I believe that the network news media is ultra biased, and that includes the New York Times, especially the New York Times. And I have found on certain programming on Fox, some of it to be somewhat driven in a particular direction, and then there are other programs that are not. I believe that the general networks are in the tank for the liberal bias, especially New York media. And I will not watch it. New York Times is not allowed in my house.
I read it every morning.
There you go.
The way I feel is, I'm personally very much for stricter gun control laws. I think the entire idea behind needing guns is just a fear-based kind of motivation, which I'm not really for. And so I think that we'd just all be safer if we had stricter gun control laws.
I'm going to give you an example. You think I couldn't get a gun if there were really strict gun control laws in this town?
No, I think you could get a gun.
Easily.
Yeah.
It'd probably be.
It's almost impossible.
I
think
bet
it's-
you I could get a gun.
Oh, to buy one illegally or to get
Yes.
one legally?
Oh,
Illegally.
illegally. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So-
I think
it's going to make
To
it
your
worse.
point, I don't think it's going to numb the gun field at all. I really don't.
I think it's. To me, I think it's nuts that we think that legislation is going to make us safer in any kind of way whatsoever.
No,
I
it
think
makes it
that
more
in most
difficult.
cases, well, here's the thing. I mean, we already have laws against murder. It's 30 years to life. We had a death penalty. It is not that is maybe a deterrent for law-abiding citizens, but for people who are not law-abiding citizens, they don't care. We know that heroin is illegal. I'm sure. I've never done heroin in my entire life. I could get some today. I'm sure if I wanted to. It's not. It's illegal. It's totally banned. We're not allowed to have it. But it's a very easy thing to come across, and it's made even more dangerous by the fact that it's been just like forget about it, throw it off to the side, and let's just pretend it doesn't exist. We can't do that.
So the idea,
We
so the
can't.
idea is don't make any kind of legislation and just don't.
I want to ask a question for those of you who are not in favor of stricter laws or not in favor of legislation on this issue. Do you feel like there's a crisis in our country with the number of shootings? I just want to start there. Do you feel that it's at a crisis level?
Yes, and for me, like, kind of getting to what you're saying, like we can't legislate our way out of this, and for me the reason is because it's a far deeper issue than the number of guns.
Absolutely.
It's a societal, cultural issue.
So what do we do?
Background checks. Serious background checks for everyone.
For me, it's a matter of the Second Amendment. Period. Over and out. Don't screw around with it.
But that's
I
to
find
build
that
a
to be a
militia.
But- well,
That's for a militia.
Yeah,
though, the Second Amendment.
and if you want to get rid of it, you've got to amend the Constitution. I've always sort of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so tell me to stop. The argument I always hear is that we don't have a militia any longer, so we shouldn't have guns. But I always think that's akin to, well, we don't have old-fashioned printing presses any longer, so we shouldn't have freedom of press.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
No.
okay, then I'm sorry,
I'm
but-
saying that they should be heavily regulated, and to make sure that, if someone wants to hunt, they can hunt,
But
or
see,
whatever.
this is what I was going to.
But if they want to,
But this is what I was going to come to,
AK-47,
is that, okay, well, machine guns are illegal, always have been illegal. It's very difficult to get a permit to own a machine gun in the United States. They have these semi-automatics, which look like machine guns, but they're not. I'm not saying that they're any safer than any other gun, but but everyone is under this impression that people can go out there and buy a machine gun, which they probably can on your black market, but
Not my black market. Don't do it.
your example of the black market.
I still would like to know how you get them out of the gang's hands. You don't. So it's
Which is
going
what
to be.
gangs-
Well, yeah, no,
I'm sorry that we're seeing a lot of police violence too. So how do we get them out of the police
That's-
hands that are also? I'm sorry,
Kidding.
Oh, I'm not kidding you.
You think
Over.
police should be unarmed?
No.
No. They are.
But
They are
police
in
have problems
UK.
with violence and with problems with violence and over abusing their power.
This is a Ferguson discussion.
How did we get
It's
the
not
guns
just
out of New York?
Ferguson.
How did
Kids.
the NYPD go about getting the guns out of New York City?
It was Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah,
and it was a
the
difference.
law was stop and frisk, right? It's a
Stop
law
and
that now
frisk
has
pre-
become a
No.
race oriented law. It happens to people who are not white very regularly in this country. It is an absolute problem, and it comes down right from the establishment. How do we fight against that?
It's stop, it's question, and frisk.
That's right.
And they're different
Have you been
standards.
stopped,
I
frisked,
have
and
been
frisked?
stopped. I've never been frisked. But the standard, now, look, I'm not saying that we shouldn't remedy, stop, question, and frisk abuses, and that probably comes through better training of our police. You just
Right.
can't take a kid and send him into a high crime neighborhood and without the proper training.
Do you think that problem is an individualized problem, like very specific to certain situations, or do you think that it's a systemic problem within our law enforcement?
What is?
The abuse of stop and frisk or of profiling or any of those.
Racism, basically.
Are you
I mean,
basically
yeah,
pointing
I mean,
to
that's
a white on black problem? Let's get it out there. 'Cause I'm feeling it.
I don't think that it's just white on black, and I actually think that it's more so of blue on
Brown.
yeah, blue on brown.
Let's pause there because there is a much more important issue.
of dessert. Since we're still being so sweet to each other.
Right. That's right.
What's kind of amazing about all of us sitting here is that we're all very different in our very own ways, but we've come to a lot of agreements about things.
If there's anything about today's conversation that surprised you or
With you, Sherry, not that you surprised me, but, I grew up Roman Catholic, and I always knew that it was sort of like tough love Catholics, Irish Catholics, okay?
guilt Catholics.
Guilt Catholics. And I'd always heard that there were these nurturing, loving Catholics out there, that were like Mary Knoll nuns that were down aiding people in Nicaragua, leftist rebel. I'm not saying that you did that. No. But, I don't really meet a lot of people like that. I didn't even really meet a lot of people like that when I was growing up.
so it breaks the stereotype a little bit.
It breaks, well, I had heard the story about, the left-wing Catholics, but I was never really encountered any, at least growing up. So you're really one of the first.
For me, I'll be very honest that I do hang around a lot of white people, And so being around someone of color is always informational to me. I happened to speak with someone who was transgender once, and that was just mind opening. And so to hear your experience, especially growing up in the South, it's enlightening to see the other side. And it's not just, I believe this, I believe that. It's like, this is what I've experienced. And so it's refreshing to hear life experience and be like, this is what we have to solve. These are the issues. So I appreciated that.
Anyone else?
Patrick, I've never met anyone like you before. A bisexual Christian who's a libertarian from Alabama. There is only like one or two people like you in the entire country.
Right. I think like breaking bread with people and having a glass of wine with people is the best way to get it all out there, and we can disagree without being disagreeable, and we can leave the table and still be like, we are not voting in the same way. I'm going to make sure that I go into the polls now, because if she is, I have to be right there, But like, and that's what it's about. I think that's the beauty of our country, is that these different opinions can be put out there and can be expressed so passionately, and then it's the action, and then it's like, okay, so now I'm going to go and make sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
Can we toast to what should we toast to? The American melting pot, I'd say. And thank you all so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Tonight we watched as Americans with passionately different viewpoints talk to each other. No, we didn't solve any major issues, but on the other hand, no food was thrown, no one lost their appetite, and for some of our guests, the person on the other side of the issue ceased to be a raving maniac.
Graduate musical theater writing.
That was my grad. That was my.
America was designed to be a melting pot, a place big enough to hold a spectrum of ideas. And all of that works a lot better when we remember that in spite of our differences, we are, after all, fellow Americans. That's food for thought. Next week, we're in Moscow, Idaho, at Casa Lopez, where the conversation promises to be as spicy as the cuisine. I'm Michael Kostroff. Thank you for joining us. Good night.